Social norms and what's socially acceptable, people have no idea how deeply that has been embedded and penetrated into their subconscious mind and the effects that it has. And the main reason that I'm bringing this up is I assume that for those of you watching this video, you would be an adult. You would be 18 plus. If you're under 18, you're more than welcome to watch this video. However, this is for adults because to a degree, until somebody is of age and an adult, they can kind of point the finger because of their upbringing, society, and that kind of stuff. However, the moment that you are an adult, especially legally on paper, you're an adult, it is up to you to make all the changes, spot the deficiencies, look at your identity, values, and beliefs, make the assessment, what's good, what's not good, remove, right, what doesn't serve you, strengthen what does serve you, and then move forward a better version of you in life. Now, we don't realize it, but we follow so many social norms and we tend to gravitate towards what's socially acceptable for validation and many other reasons. However, when you stop to think about it, what's socially acceptable in the social norm changes like the wind. It wasn't that long ago in the United States that if your skin color was darker, you couldn't do stuff. You guys have seen the signs. No coloreds, no Dominican people, no Southern Italians, like all this stuff. That was the social norm. Split bathrooms, riding on the separate parts of the bus, segregation, all that stuff. It wasn't too long ago that it was socially acceptable that if you, again, did anything that's popular now, like spirituality and all that, oh, you were a witch. They would burn you alive at the stake and stone you, right? That's what it's called. Well, they throw stones at you and kill you. I don't even know if you can say that word, Killu. Again, if you were homosexual, right? Bisexual, whatever it was socially acceptable to hang those individuals or, again, off them. That was socially acceptable or the social norm. The point that I'm making here, even though I'm giving more extreme examples or specific ones, right, is at one point, something was acceptable or the norm. Does that mean that it's right and or something that one should do? No, not at all. Because if it was socially normal and acceptable for me to mistreat other human beings, I wouldn't do it. But see, I want you to look a little bit deeper. Those are acts that we would do on people and things that were blatantly wrong and extreme examples that I gave on purpose. But a lot of other things have slowly been planted into your subconscious mind that you don't realize are holding you back. If you have an opinion on something, it's not socially normal or acceptable to voice your opinion, especially and particularly if it goes against what's widely accepted or preached. I'm a prime example of that. I've had my social medias that took me a decade to build destroyed overnight because how I live, my beliefs, my opinions aren't what's acceptable out there. It's not what the majority is saying or the agenda that's being pushed. And because of that, you get censored, you get hate mail, right? Like all the stuff that comes with it, which I don't care about that, right? But I'm not going to allow that to stop me and change or question what I'm doing just because that stuff happened. And the interesting part is that influences people so much so that I've actually had people say, man, if you're getting so much hate online, wouldn't you think that it's actually you? And I'm sitting there like, wow. So because the masses of these bots online and these people who, again, are against me or believe the opposite of what I believe in, one of a million things that I've talked about, just because I would get a lot of hate, these individuals, if it was them in my shoes, even if they knew they were standing on truth or facts like wholeheartedly, because they got so much hate, they would actually question their position. You see, do you understand what I just said? That even if you stand on truth and facts, objectively, like, 2 + 2 is 4. Now imagine if you had mobs of people telling you you're wrong. But factually, this is correct. Those individuals that made those comments to me would start to question reality and the truth and facts because of that mob of opposition. Now, The highest level minds and marketers on this planet understand the concept that I'm talking to you about in this video. They're the ones pulling the strings in the background with the mass media and corporations and the groupthink that they're creating to mess with people up here. That's why I believe that I'm one of the people, many people that got silenced, because I know when I speak, for the most part, people listen. And I know that through all the work and training that I've done, I can make a point, I can teach something, I can make a lot of these concepts just readily understandable and digestible to most people on a wide variety of subjects that I've talked about, because I've trained in this for a very, very long time, and I still have a lot of work to do. So there's a reason that not everybody got, censored or shunned or kicked off these platforms, but somebody like me did. I truly believe that. Now, I don't know that for a fact, right? But that's really what I'm thinking. I've been able to deduce this thing so many different ways, and that's really the only plausible reason that at least makes sense to me, logically. But understand what I just said there. If you get enough, and by the way, there are, like you've seen pictures where they set up on a wall, all these phones that are connected and they mass report or they mass comment on Twitter and Instagram. Yes, that happens. You think a lot of those are real accounts. They're not. To push a narrative or an agenda. What's socially acceptable or the norm. I remember, I'll never forget this. I think it was the athlete Usain Bolt, right? One of the best sprinters ever. Posted, right? I guess he had just had kids. Oh, me and my wife are celebrating. We just had our 2 twin sons and we're so happy. And just floods in the comment section. How can you misgender your children? They haven't decided if they're boys yet, and da-da-da, this is toxic masculinity. And you would just see a flood of those comments. And I'm sitting there like, wow. And there's a lot of people who start to buy into that agenda because all these fake bots or these mobs of people, whether they're real or not, is irrelevant, by the way. They'll start to question it, right? Now, if in Usain Bolt's, and just like my mind, we live in the regular world where, yes, there's boys and girls and all that stuff, and we don't get into this woke ideology, we're going to stand on that. But how crazy of a world is it that now they're trying to really sell to you that the social norm is the opposite, that most people believe there's an infinite number of genders, and most people believe in this and that, and the pronouns and all that other nonsense that's out there. You see how much of a slippery slope this is if we allow what's socially acceptable or the social norm just to continue to go towards these things? And I get it. A lot of people are like, I may not prescribe to it, but I'm just going to back off and not say anything. You got to say something. You got to start standing up and really doing something about it, even if that means you might have to suffer temporarily. Because the reason that individuals like me get destroyed is because nobody speaks up. If not even the majority, if 30%, 40% of people stood up, even less, all the tides would shift very quickly. Why do you think they started backpedaling on a lot of this stuff that happened in 2020 with the masks and all this other stuff? It's because enough people like myself were like, we're not having it. And remember, when all that happened, I was in Los Angeles. One of the worst places for this stuff. You need your card and the mask and this and that. I felt like I was literally in prison as a free man back then. I didn't care how socially acceptable and normal it was to mask up and all the other garbage that they said. I wasn't taking the SHOT. I wasn't taking any BOOSTER. I wasn't wearing the mask. I wasn't doing any of that. I was looking at the facts. It didn't make sense. All the things that they were showing didn't add up. I wasn't buying into it. I didn't care what the opposition was or what the consequences were. And the interesting part is a lot of people would message me privately that they agreed with me. Many more than people who would speak out against and say I'm crazy or this and that, and people who sent me death threats and all that stuff. I just laughed at that, right? Because by then, I'd already been on social media for so long. Dude, my skin is thicker than a building. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't bug. I laugh at that stuff now. Or before, it used to piss me off, but I've grown, matured, and built a thick skin and developed, right? Especially being in sales too. But that's a separate point. But see, if nobody says anything or says, you know what? No, that's wrong. They don't raise their hand. They don't make a post. They don't voice how they really believe and how they think. Then there's this perception that there's less people on the side of reality, facts, and rationality. So more and more people back up. Then it's easy for them to pick out individuals like me or somebody else and do what they do. censor him, deplatform him, because they did a great job. They funneled everybody to these free social media apps. They slowly started changing the rules. The government got involved. Yes, the government is involved. If you don't believe they're involved with these private companies, then you're a fool or you just don't know enough. And now they basically control everything in the space. They can push on the algorithm what they want you to see. They can silence people like me or anybody else with the push of a button. My social media platforms got destroyed overnight. 200,000 on YouTube, 50, 60,000 on Instagram, my original one. I had 5,000 friends and like 30, 40,000 followers. All that stuff organic, by the way, built. And that was on Facebook. Facebook, I got kicked off and it got deleted. I got kicked off and shadow banned on Instagram. Same thing with YouTube. They demonetized my channel for a long time. Then finally, they partially restored it, this last year, but I deleted it. I'd post a video with 200,000 subscribers and get 100 views. Doesn't make any sense. So, but that's normal. Oh, you can't say anything, you'll get canceled. That's become a social norm. That's sad. To me, yes, the powers that be are to blame. But we as people need to wise up to this stuff, because the first step in all this is not only just becoming aware of it, but wising up to it. Then the next piece is the people who are wising up to it and know, and there's a lot more people than you think, we need to start moving differently. If you have an opinion on something, do it. Like, this is why I totally applaud those parents who are going into those school boards and just giving it to them when it comes to all that woke stuff, that are detesting all that sex content for like kindergartners and stuff. That stuff is, that's appalling. If I had a kid, I'd be raised in hell too, if I had sent them to public school and they were showing them that stuff. So good for you guys. I applaud you for doing that. We need more of that. And we need more people spreading those videos and posts, because then it's going to give more courage to other people to do that stuff. But the time of sitting back idly, we can't do anymore. Because if you look at it politically, right, the left and the right, what we conventionally believe to be that, I obviously bias more towards the right on a lot of issues, right? People are going to say I'm more conservative, and I am overall. But when you look at it, it's normal and the norm for more center or right people to shut up and just be like, whatever. Versus the left typically are loud. They're the ones pushing to get ordinances and things changed at a local level. Well, that's why they've gotten a grip on everything. On top of all the foolery and all the corruption, of course, that has a big piece of it too. But just, again, let's look at it objectively. People on the left are a lot more vocal. They'll tell you how they feel. They'll push at the local level and the presidential level, right? Versus people on the right are typically a little bit more passive because we're working and doing our thing and we're not really that political. I get it. But those days of being quiet are done, because the social norms and our culture is shifting so bad and in such a negative way, we can't sit back idly anymore. It's so bad now that you've seen the other video. I don't even know if I want to have kids because I don't want to bring them into this madness. I know my bubble and my world will be a world of love and discipline and principles and morals and ethics and value and all those other things. But the moment I send them out, what am I sending them out? I would even not want to give them a cell phone. But you can only do so much, because most of the time they're not going to be with me. They're going to be in school or with other people. I can't control all that. But what a sad day that we look at the world and we have to see it for that. So part of it is us having to come in and make some changes, or at least start doing something. This is why I totally detested people and told them, hey, if you didn't want to get the VACCINE during that whole period in 2020 and 2021, refuse and take them to court. Because I know so many people who reluctantly got it, and then a month or two later, they lifted all the requirements. And I said, you got it for nothing. If they fired you, you could have sued them. Why don't you go through with it? Is it tough? Yes. Is it inconvenient? Absolutely. I understand. But we got to do it. Otherwise, nothing will change. You want change? It starts at the individual level. This is something I've been talking about for over a decade now on my social media and channels. You want the world to change? You want the movement to come up? It starts at the individual level. You want people to be disciplined? You first adopt and become disciplined. You want communication to improve in the world and people to be better speakers and be able to express themselves better? You first start with yourself and you be the example first. Then the ripple of change will occur and begin to happen. But we got to see this thing for what it is. When it's normal for all this, like, look at all the areas right now: finances, business, social media, relationships. Most of them are doing horrible. because we're allowing these stupid social norms to just continue to evolve and become more degenerate and more degenerate. It's crazy. It breaks my heart to see all the stuff happening back in California where they do those takeovers, where they literally block off an intersection and start doing donuts. Like, that's crazy, dude. When I was still involved in the car community, we didn't do that. There was at least some level of respect. Did we do dumb stuff? Of course, but we weren't endangering other people's lives and, racing in the middle of the street and then blocking off intersections. Like, see, but again, when that becomes socially acceptable and the norm in these different things, well, guess what? That's what happens. So we have to become aware of this and understand that this principle is ever present and it's extremely important. And this infiltrates your subconscious mind and everything about the fabric of your being at the deepest levels. And you don't know so many of the desires and things that you think that you want or what you want to do, or I feel like I'm missing out by not going to the club. All that stuff is socially acceptable and social norms and what's expected of you. How many of you are in school right now because it's what's expected of you? How many of you think you have to follow that timeline to have a kid or do this or that just because society tells you that? 1 week, an individual, and this is the same individual, will tell me, you're a fool, you should have had married and had kids. And the next week, that same person will tell me, oh man, you're doing it right, being single. It's like, bro, what? You flip-flopped in 1 week. But I know overall, these people, I'm not specifically saying the marriage and kids thing. This, again, it's everything. With their career path, to their relationship choices, to their life choices, to their goals, to their character, to who they are, what they do, what they pursue, their interests, their hobbies. The more that they fall into that social norm category, oh man. I can't think of many people, if any, that tell me that follow that stuff 100%, that prescription to say, I'm totally happy and fulfilled. But you got to take a look at it, right? This isn't a video to bash people. It's for you to become more aware and make sure that you live your life by design, by choice, and you create as you see, right? That's why I got abracadabra. I create as I speak. From my mind to the tongue to everything that I do is to move forward and create the type of life that I'd be happy about, fulfilled, and I'm going to live on principle, virtue, and many other things. That's the pillars of my businesses and everything else, and that's why I believe I continue on this path. And when I look around, I'm living very, very well. And the people that I'm touching and having in my communities and my circles, they're starting to see it too, adopt that more and become more powerful, and I'm happy for it. But I really urge you to start looking at what's socially acceptable in the norms and see through it and see them for what they are. And your life will change, guaranteed. All right? If you guys want to check out some free stuff, I have some resources in the description. Anything else you want to comment on, let me know. Any other video ideas or questions that you have, you can message me personally or comment below, and maybe I'll do a video for you. All right? See you.